So, because I always sometimes forget to close other windows. Okay, so now the latest news. This news came out actually today. So we got some bad news for those of you who are looking for this Blade movie. You might have to wait a little bit longer because it's officially been pulled off of its Disney schedule. Now, I was looking on all the trades when I saw like some of the smaller trades reporting it, but then I saw that Variety and Deadline and them was reporting. I said, okay, now it's legit. Like I wanted no shade to a lot of the smaller, mom and pop blogs that post these stories, but it's it's far more credible when we get it from a Variety or a Deadline. So could this be the final stake in the heart for Blade? Because word on the street is that Disney has quietly pulled the film off its schedule and will instead release Predator Badlands. Now, Blade was previously scheduled for a November 7th, 2025 release date, which I knew that was going to happen because November 7th is a year from next month. And we haven't heard a new director coming on board. Haven't heard anybody working on this or doing a new draft of the script. I mean, maybe there have been people, but there's been so many people. There's been such a revolving door of screenwriters. It's been hard for me to keep track of who's actually working on the script, a new draft for this Blade movie. And we haven't heard a new director come on since Jan de Bont dropped out. And he was the last one to kind of drop off out of the running because MCU didn't like what he was coming up with. So they decided, okay, so now we still haven't heard anything. So now they've given it to, like I said, Predator Badlands, which is this movie that's coming out. I believe it's a spiritual follow-up to Prey, which was directed by Dan Trachtenberg. Now, Dan Trachtenberg directed Prey, and he's directing Predator Badlands, which is set to star Elle Fanning, Dakota sister. So that's what we basically know so far. So they basically said for Marvel boss Kevin Feige, well, they said, well, that's what I was saying. So they said for Marvel boss Kevin Feige, it's important to make the best Blade movie ever. The studio won't make the move the film, until they've cracked a great script. This is basically according to Variety, what they had said in their article. Now, in the meantime, Snipes had a cameo in Blade in the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine. So the movie has grossed $1.3 billion as of now. It has surpassed Barbie as the biggest grossing film of all time and like R-rated. And I know fans were basically saying that they would actually, after seeing Blade appear in Deadpool and Wolverine, that they would like to see an old man Blade movie. Like we feel like he needs a proper send-off because Blade Trinity was a hot ass mess. So the fans, including myself, we were all saying, like, you know what? Maybe in the meantime, while y'all figure out what the hell to do with this new Blade franchise, that maybe you need to cast Wesley Snipes in a separate film, kind of like what you did with Logan. Like literally give him his last ride, a proper send-off, and then we can kind of forgive what was Blade Trinity. Because Blade Trinity was not a good film. I love what Dave Goyer brought to the lore of Blade. I love the first two Blade movies. And Dave Goyer did a phenomenal job with the script. I just don't understand what happened with Blade Trinity. And I believe that Dave Goyer wasn't even the choice to direct that film. I think they wanted Guillermo del Toro to come back. I guess he had other things on his mind and he didn't want to direct a third film. But I loved what he did with Blade 2. I mean, the vampires that he had were similar to the Stegoi that was in the vampire series that he worked on Fox. Oh my God, I totally forgot the name of that show. And I read the damn books too that he wrote. So I think that was based off of the vampires that, excuse me, The Strain. Now it came to me. So when he worked on The Strain and everything, I remember the vampires were similar to the vampires in Blade 2, but Blade 2, of course, came before The Strain. And I actually liked The Strain the first season and a half. Then it started to kind of go off the rails for me. I just couldn't stick with it. I mean, I watched it all the way through, but I just didn't like the direction they were going with the series. But I did love the book when I read it. I think it came out with other books too, but I only read The Strain, the actual first book. I didn't read all the other series of books that he came out with in that universe. And it was a thick book too. It was very it was like a Stephen King sized book, like a lot of pages. But I thoroughly enjoyed the book. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm have to say I'm kind of disappointed. I really was looking forward to seeing what the MCU were going to bring with Blade, and they basically were talking about like they took it off the docket. You know, it was widely expected they were going to do this after Bob Iger stated in an earnings call on May 7th of this year that Marvel will release a maximum of 3 movies a year of the 4 superhero films Disney previously has slated for 2025, including Captain America: Brave New World, which sidebar I'm hearing is not getting great reviews based on test screenings. And prior to, they've been reshooting and working on this script and this film for the longest, and it's still being panned. So I'm a little worried, although I will go and see it because I like Anthony Mackie, and I definitely want to see what they plan on bringing with this and the Red Hulk and all that stuff. But as far as based off of what I'm hearing, I'm gonna go in not expecting greatness. I mean, we could all be surprised, and this could all be a lie, and it could be like, you know what, just art is subjective. People were just saying this mess, but then when you go and it's not as bad as everybody's trying to make this movie out to be. But I'm still kind of like gonna have my trepidations. Then they also have Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four. I'm not that excited for Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four has never been like one of my top comic book things that I've cared about. I didn't particularly care for any of the movies. I didn't care about the ones with Jessica Alba and Johnny Storm. And what was that? It was Chris Evans, like when he was the original Johnny Storm, and then they played him off in, which was a cackle, in Deadpool and Wolverine. I didn't pretty much care for those. I didn't care for the one with Michael B. Jordan and Miles Teller. I didn't care for those. And even though I am a fan of Pedro Pascal, I'm not that excited for this Fantastic Four movie. Now, when I see the trailer, I may have a different tune. I'll give it a gander. I'll still check it out. But it's not like must-see TV for me. And Thunderbolts, based on the trailer, that piqued my interest. So I may actually go check that out. But I'm still like I think I'm more or less on the fence because I've pretty much been disappointed with the rollout of the phases. Was phase 4 and 5? I don't remember what phase we're in right now. It's just been all over the place. And then I just feel like with the MCU, we've been oversaturated with a lot of the films that y'all were putting out, the shows, and a lot of fans felt, I think, overwhelmed. I don't think we had superhero fatigue. I just think that the MCU just overestimated a lot of things. Y'all, had too many shows coming out, too many movies coming out, and then y'all were interlinking everything. And then I think like before, and I've said this so many times, when I've watched the MCU, I felt like even if I did not watch the shows, I didn't feel like I had to watch a movie of a superhero that I particularly didn't care for in order to know what was going on in the Avengers or what was going on in this other film or that film or whatever. I didn't feel like I had to watch certain things. But the way that the MCU were doing things in the newer phases, they were trying to interlink everything in so much like, oh, if you didn't see Miss Marvel, then you wouldn't understand what's going on in the Marvels. Or if you didn't see this film, you wouldn't understand what was going on in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So, I'll say that WandaVision. If you didn't see WandaVision, it would not have made sense. You would not have understood what was going on in this film. You wouldn't understand what was going on in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. And I know people who did not like WandaVision. And it was like one of my roommates when I lived in Brooklyn. He did not like the show because he didn't get the overall theme in regards of Wanda living in this world of American television because he's not American. He's Brazilian. So a lot of the the nuances and when you watch certain things of what was going on in the TV sitcoms and stuff, he didn't understand that. So he didn't like the show. And so when you go into this movie, now it's like, okay, now you're throwing me off. I'm not getting it. I'm not understanding. So that was, I feel like, the mistake that the MCU made. Hopefully they're going to course correct and get everything back on track. But I am a little upset because I really wanted this Blade movie. Like, I really would love to have seen Mahershala Ali. Like, I feel like aesthetically, he looks perfect as a proper predecessor to, Wesley Snipes passing the baton. Like, here's the thing. We need to be open to allowing other people to come in and play parts. Wesley Snipes is in his 60s. He's not going to be able to play the part forever. And I feel like we need to open ourselves up to allowing other people to come in. Now, they were talking about in the article, they said regular Marvel scribe Eric Pearson, who wrote the Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and Black Widow, is actually working on the script. Now, Michael Green worked on it in the past, Stacey Osei Kofer, Michael Starbury, Bo DeMeo, and Nick Pizzolatto. Now, we've already heard Bo DeMeo's pitch because he went on Twitter maybe about a month or two ago and posted his ideas that he went to the MCU regarding the Blade script that they passed on. And I was like, this sounds like a pretty cool idea. But then again, a lot of ideas is one thing, but the execution of a script is another thing. So I guess we could take that into mind as well. But I like what Bo DeMeo had came up with. Now, they also said that they didn't want to move forward with a Blade that doesn't live up to its predecessors. Feige has said as much in prior interviews, noting that for the last few years, we've been trying to crack the movie. The most important thing for us is not rushing it and making sure that we're making the right Blade film. Well, I would think like with the source material that y'all have from Tomb of Dracula and things of that nature, and maybe even some, because I'm sure there's comics out there that have been comic books that have kept the whole Blade story going. Why not read some of those and get some ideas? I just don't understand how it's like the world's your oyster. There, we have comic books and things of that nature that writers can look to for inspiration, and you can cinemize it. If that's a word, I just made it up. You can put it in cinematic form because everything that works in a comic book is not going to work in the movies. It's just not how, it's just virtually impossible. You can't just take things off the comic book page and make it work in a cinematic world, which is what, they've been doing for the longest, which is like they don't take everything literally from the comics and put it in that whole situation. So, I don't know. I just felt like at this point, while, I would love to see a Blade movie, I don't think the MCU was the right universe for this film to exist in. And I just don't want my Daywalker to be Disneyfied. I don't know if, I don't feel like you could water it down. I feel like if you're going to go there, you need to kind of give it the Deadpool and Wolverine angle. I'm not saying that it's got to be comedy and dick jokes and things of that nature. I'm just saying tonally, it needs to be dark. It needs to be, action packed. There's got to be blood. I mean, you put CGI blood, whatever the case is, but it's got to have that grounded vibe of the original Blade, the Stephen Norrington one, because that's kind of like, I like that vibe. If you can give it a comic booky sheen like they did with the Guillermo del Toro version, but I need my Blade to be grounded. I need there to be mixed martial arts. I need to kind of and I need to be like John Wick battling vampires. That's basically what I would want to see with a Blade film. So I also don't understand why they would announce that they're making this movie, cast your lead, Mahershala Ali, which they did about 6-7 years ago, and then they still can't crack the code. So you had a revolving door of scriptwriters, who I just mentioned, two directors dropped out. So if y'all can't figure out how to make vampirism work in an MCU world, then I feel like at this point what needs to happen is maybe you just need to move on and not make this movie and give it to somebody else, sell it to another thing, or have somebody else come in and crack the code, or just not be a part of the MCU, because I feel like y'all don't know what y'all doing over there in regards to this whole thing. So now, as far as like Predator Badlands, I'm definitely interested in seeing that, because Dan Trachtenberg, I thought, did a phenomenal job with Prey. Prey should have been released in the damn theater. It wasn't. It went straight to Hulu, and y'all left so much money on the table with that film. Dan Trachtenberg, I thought, did a phenomenal job with Prey. Prey should have been released in the damn theater. It wasn't. It went straight to Hulu, and y'all left so much money on the table with that film. And now you realize that it was such a hit and people loved this so much. Now Disney is looking at it as like, okay, now we need to release this in a theater, which I think is smart. Now, in regards of what they plan on doing with this whole thing and how they plan on putting it together, I am definitely curious about it. So I will definitely keep you guys abreast of the story as it develops. But in the meantime, in regards of Predator Badlands and Blade, but I ask all of you this: what do you think of this story? I mean, are you upset, shocked, not surprised, shocked and surprised, shocked and not surprised that that Blade's been pulled off the schedule? At this point, I feel like Mahershala Ali is in his 50s. He's unless you're doing an old man Blade, with Mahershala Ali, I just feel like y'all just need to recast, find a younger actor. I don't know who. I mean, I don't think Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan's got his own vampire movie coming out, and next year, early next year. So he's focused on that. If y'all have an idea of who a younger Blade should be and taking over from Mahershala, because I think Mahershala Ali is done. I think he hasn't made the announcement. I feel like he's moved on. I mean, he's doing the new Jurassic Park movie with Scarlett Johansson, so he's busy with that. And I'm sure he's got other things down the pipeline. And this whole making me wait almost a decade to play a vampire hunter is ridiculous at this point. It's like, and he's not getting any younger. Yes, black don't crack. And trust and believe that Mahershala still looks good at his age. However, I'm not going to sit around on my hands waiting a decade for y'all to figure out how to crack a code on how to bring a vampire hunter to the big screen. So I'm definitely curious to hear what you guys think of this story, as well as, who you think should replace Mahershala if it comes down to that. And what ideas do you think that they should take, or direction they should take with, bringing Blade to the big screen? So I want to hear all of that. So let me know what your thoughts are on this story in the comments down below.